The world called Adrian Knight unstoppable. He was the CEO who had turned a failing company into an empire, the man whose gaze in a boardroom could silence an entire room. He was powerful, unflinching, and calculated in every step he took. Success had become his second skin, and failure was something he had buried years ago along with the softer, more fragile parts of himself. To his employees, he was a god. To his competitors, a storm. To the world, untouchable. But no amount of power could have prepared Adrian for the moment when the past walked back into his life. It was a cold evening when she appeared. The lobby of Knight Enterprises buzzed with its usual chaos, executives rushing, interns panicking, deals being sealed in hurried whispers. And then, through the revolving glass doors, came Adrian Knight, his ex-wife, the woman he had once loved with a fire so fierce it had terrified him, the woman he had lost because his ambition had always been louder than his heart. Adrian was coming down from his private elevator when he saw her. Time froze. She looked the same and yet completely different, her beauty still breathtaking, but her eyes carried a shadow, something heavier than he remembered, and she wasn't alone. In her arms, she held a child, a baby. The sight nearly knocked the air out of him. His steps faltered, his control slipping for the first time in years. Evelyn's gaze met his across the bustling lobby, and for a moment, the entire world disappeared. She walked toward him, every step measured, the child resting against her shoulder. Adrian's heart, usually a fortress, pounded painfully, as if trying to break free from the cage he had locked it in. "Evelyn," he breathed when she finally stopped in front of him. "Adrian," she said softly, her voice steady but her eyes revealing the storm inside her. He looked at the child, a big curious eyes, tiny fists clinging to Evelyn's coat. His chest tightened. The baby couldn't have been more than a year old. Something inside him shifted, cracked, and before he could stop himself, he whispered, "Whose child is this?" Evelyn's lips trembled, and for the first time since he had known her, she hesitated. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Yours." The word detonated inside him. His world, the empire he had built, the walls he had raised, the identity he had carved for himself was shattered in an instant. His knees felt weak, his hands clenched, his jaw tightened. He stared at her, then at the baby, and for the first time in his life, Adrian Knight, the powerful CEO, was shaken to his core. "Mine," he rasped, his voice hoarse. "Yes," Evelyn said, her eyes filling with unshed tears. "This is your son. His name is Noah." Adrian's world tilted. He staggered back a step, unable to breathe, his mind spinning. A son. He had a son, and she had never told him. Anger surged, anger at her, anger at himself, anger at the years lost. But beneath it all, there was something stronger, something terrifying, fear. Fear that he had already missed too much. "Why?" he demanded, his voice sharper than he intended. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were too busy building empires," Evelyn shot back, her voice trembling. "Because you made it clear that there was no place for me in your world, and if there was no place for me, how could there be for him?" Her words cut deep, each syllable a blade to his chest. He remembered the nights they had fought, her begging him to come home, him choosing meetings and deadlines instead. He remembered the day she left, her eyes full of heartbreak, her hands empty. He had told himself she would come back. She never did, and now he knew why. His son. The baby stirred, letting out a soft sound, and Adrian's eyes dropped to the child again. Noah, his son. For the first time in years, Adrian felt something he couldn't control, couldn't suppress. His hand trembled as he reached out, hesitating just inches away. Evelyn shifted protectively, but then, after a long pause, she allowed Adrian's hand to brush Noah's tiny fist. The baby grabbed his finger, gripping it with surprising strength. Adrian's breath caught, his chest constricted, his eyes burned. That small hand held him tighter than any deal, any empire, any crown he had ever fought for. Without another word, Adrian led them upstairs, his mind a storm of chaos. His office, usually his throne, now felt suffocating. He closed the door behind them, pacing, running a hand through his hair. 2 years, he finally said, his voice low. 2 years, Evelyn. I had a son for 2 years and I didn't know. I wanted to tell you, she whispered, but I couldn't risk it. You were cold, Adrian. Ruthless. You shut me out of your life completely. I wasn't going to throw our son into a world where he would only be another weakness for your enemies to exploit. He stopped, turning to her. Weakness? His voice cracked. He's not a weakness. As he has a broken bar, his words faltered, his throat closing. He pressed a trembling hand to his forehead, struggling to breathe. He's mine. Evelyn's eyes softened, tears slipping down her cheeks. Yes, he's yours. Silence stretched, filled only by Noah's soft breathing. Adrian sank into his chair, his head in his hands, his powerful frame shaking with emotions he didn't understand. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like a CEO, didn't feel like the untouchable man the world revered. He felt human, broken, vulnerable, and strangely alive. That night, he refused to let them leave. He arranged everything as security, rooms in his penthouse, whatever Evelyn and Noah needed. He didn't care about the meetings he missed, the calls he ignored. For the first time in his life, the empire could wait. The following days were chaos. Adrian, who had never so much as held a baby, found himself learning. Noah's lateral bright, pure shook him in ways boredom victories never had. His cries at night woke him, and Adrian found himself pacing the floor at 3 a.m., holding his son against his chest, whispering words he didn't even know he had. Each moment, each smile, each small hand clutching his shirt chipped away at the man he had been, reshaping him into someone new. Evelyn watched with cautious hope. She had left because she thought Adrian could never change, never soften. But now, watching him with Noah, seeing the roll of in his eyes, she wondered if perhaps she had been wrong. One evening, as Noah slept, Evelyn stood on the balcony, the city lights glowing below. Adrian joined her, his hands in his pockets, his face unusually vulnerable. You changed everything, he admitted, his voice quiet. Not just you, him. Noah. He broke me, Evelyn. And I'm not sure I can put myself back together. You don't need to, she whispered. Maybe this is who you were meant to be all along. He turned to her, his eyes burning with something she hadn't seen in years. Love, raw and unguarded. I don't deserve you or him, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying. Her breath caught, her heart aching. She wanted to believe him, for Noah, for herself. The powerful CEO had been shaken, not by a hostile takeover or a rival empire, but by the return of the woman he had lost and the secret she carried in her arms. And in that breaking, Adrian Knight found something he had never sought, something he had never known. He needed a family. And for the first time in years, he wasn't afraid.